Jeffis. We're going to look at Art Deco and Art Nouveau art. A lot of times when you go to a city, you see different kinds of buildings, and it's really neat to know the architecture. What kind of architecture is it? And Art Deco, after World War I, the 30s and the 40s, you see these fabulous Art Deco buildings like the Chrysler building that you see right there. Art Deco is a style that's very sort of machine age, simplicity, very, very popular at one time, not only in, you can find it in jewelry and in furniture, many different things. The Art Deco style was very, very popular. Art Nouveau, about 1890 to 1910, was very popular, but this style was very different. It was very ornate and very elaborate, so to speak, but you could find Art Nouveau things that were like Tiffany glass, that were definitely Art Nouveau style. And you can see a picture there from a very old book, and you can see different household items that were done in the Art Nouveau style, just like the Art Deco style. And if some of you love Antiques Roadshow, dare I say it, or you love to study antiques, it's really amazing when someone can say, yeah, that's Art Deco, I love that, and that's an Art Nouveau type sculpture right there. So it's neat to be able to recognize these different styles in art history. We're going to look at first some posters, and first we're going to look at Art Nouveau posters. The Art Nouveau posters that we see there have a lot of detail to them, a lot of bright colors. Sometimes if you see a poster with a very beautiful, elaborate frame, this would be Art Nouveau. The lettering is very elaborate. Contrasted with that is Art Deco, which is simplicity to the max. The abstract art movement started really in the 1950s, so Art Deco is before that. But if you look at this, these are done by the government. These are the posters that are Art Deco. Public Works Administration did these. And it's almost like there's shadows in the background. The letters are very simple. They're not elaborate at all. And this would be your Art Deco style. Now, sculpture is art that you can walk all the way around. Architecture, of course, is art that you can walk through. And we did look at a piece of Art Deco architecture. Now, this picture is Christ the Redeemer, and this is one of the most famous Art Deco sculptures in the world. It's in South America. And the other one is by P.S. Forsman. And when you think about hood ornaments, I tried to get some pictures of hood ornaments, but they're very protected. A lot of times you can't just find them. But hood ornaments that were the beautiful cars that were like in the 1930s and 40s, or the sleek diesel engines, you know, you see pictures like that. And the cars, and with the really beautiful hood ornaments, and this would be an Art Deco type of style. Now, your Art Nouveau kind of sculpture is very elaborate. We have a picture by François Rial Larche, I believe it's pronounced that way, and this sculpture is very elaborate, over the top, and that's what you would see in an Art Nouveau type style. It's important to be able to recognize things like Tiffany glass. And there's just different artists, different sculptors, from different time periods. And when we're talking about the late 1890s to 1910, we're talking about Art Nouveau. And when we're talking about right after World War I, we're talking about Art Deco. And so we're going to look at some posters, way to do some posters today. And we're going to talk about how to do a good poster, first of all. With an Art Nouveau design. Art Deco, it's very simplistic. Art Nouveau, you can really make a really neat frame. And one way that I did this, and if I was going to make a frame for this, an arabesque is just an interesting design. So what I did is I took the plates, and this is going to be my border. Now, normally I'd take my ruler, and I would go all the way around my poster, okay, so that I could have a border, because a border is a really good idea for a poster. But with Art Nouveau, I want to make it just a little bit different. So when I start doing my Art Nouveau border, you want to get markers, and you can just go over your design And then you want to start making some very, very interesting arabesque shapes. Just different shapes that are interesting. Some people love to do this. They could just do this for hours. Not everybody. But, you know, you can put leaves on your designs. And you can make it just as elaborate as you want to. But once you have an interesting shape here, or if you have a big dinner plate, I used a big dinner plate on the other one, then you can take your black marker and you can create very, very interesting designs with this. And I know some of you probably love details. So you'll probably want to do a lot of detailing on this. And you can create a beautiful border. Now, in Art Nouveau style, you see variation of tone sometimes. And sometimes you have markers and you think, oh my word, I'm going to throw these away. They're not any good. They're running out. Well, I had one of the most beautiful works of art done with markers that were almost running out. But they used the markers for shading and different things, and it just turned out spectacular. So sometimes you don't need to throw those markers out. You can actually use them. Now, as you can see, I'm creating a very interesting border. I want to be consistent with it. I want to create my border on all the sides. I want to do approximately the same thing. So if I made this shape on this side, in this corner, then I want to create it again and duplicate it again because this is my frame. And then I'm going to put little leaves on it. I basically want it to look the same. And I might just want to put my little lines here. Make a decision of how you're gonna do your border, and then do it that way. And again, this is fancy, Art Nouveau. If I was doing Art Deco, I wouldn't do this at all. I would have it be very, just probably very, very sparse. Remember, it's a machine age type thing. It's simplicity. But that's not true with Art Nouveau. And so I would put this on here the same way. And then, of course, I can add colors. Once I get my frame on here, I can add as many colors as I want to. And my letters could be very fancy. Because again, I can add little dots there, curly cues. You know, there's a lot of things that I can do to this to make it look interesting. But I want to stay pretty much with this is my border. And then I can do my very interesting picture. A lot of times in Art Nouveau, you see very lovely ladies in an Art Nouveau type picture. Now I'm going to do this. And I'm going to make some more swirls. And put some little leaves on them. And then when I start adding my colors, it's just going to look so interesting. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but we need to create a very, very elaborate border. So I can keep working on that picture. And then I can put in the picture maybe a girl, like, or I could just do maybe a bird. I'm going to show you one I've already started, so you can look at this. And as you can see, I have my bright colored peacock. I did a peacock. And I'm going to color it blue. A poster is really done, You can use poster paint, tempera paint, but the beautiful markers that are available now are wonderful to use. You just want your lines in your marker to be clean. Every line you do is important. If you scribble one thing and want to get done early, it can ruin the whole composition. So you just really want to take your time with this. I'm going to put some leaves on there and then color everything else blue, like a peacock would probably be. And I'm going to color it very neat. I thought about maybe how my frame on this one would look good with probably a gold marker, perhaps. And I might want to make a red background, just something really beautiful and bright that always takes time to color in, of course. Now I do have the word birds there, so I might want to do the word birds in red. And it's more of a fancy writing. Because, you know, maybe you're thinking about, well, selling birds or something like that. But the important thing is you want to color it very, very neat. And the first thing anybody is going to look at, of course, is the word birds there, depending, of course, on my other colors. Now I do have the beautiful swirls again. You can get a smaller line if you want to. These markers are just delightful because you can get a thick line, or you can get a small line. Either way, they're just delightful. And an Art Nouveau piece, a lot of times, can look like a stained glass window. So if I create this, and now I might decide what do I want to do for my background. And since it's Art Nouveau, I can have it be as bright and colorful as I want it to be. So I can easily make it yellow. And it looks like these markers are going to be able to blend a little bit, which is so cool. So it would make it look even more interesting. As long as you could still see the words, that's really what you want to see. You want to see beautiful, bright colors. So I would take and make my beautiful yellow background. And I would want to put color on this. And I would want to come up with a beautiful, I'll show you this right now, Art Nouveau poster that was extremely colorful. And I love the way that these markers are, you know, they're bringing forth shadows. And again, a lot of times you can see on Art Nouveau posters these beautiful ladies, and sometimes they have beautiful long flowing hair. And you see like these spirals, you just get this beautiful carried away with line design in that movement. It's beautiful. And with the Art Deco movement, it's more just the simplicity of the clean, you know, like many times you'd see the city and then the background of the city. And we'll talk a little bit about that with perspective. It's really important that you do a scrap paper first. Draw it out first how you want it to be. Now, there's several sketches here. And, you know, trying to develop, this is Art Deco, simplicity, grow in love. We ended up thinking that there should be maybe a cross in there, a little tiny cross, and it's just some other things. You know, you could, if you do a little model of it first, it's really a good idea, because then you don't start something, and it's one of the worst things that can happen with a poster is you realize that, you know, you've done a beautiful job on it, and then you figure out you spelled a word wrong, or you accidentally figured it out so you couldn't get all the letters on. This is a really big deal. You want to pre-plan, plan ahead. Well, another thing that you want to do, and this is, again, this is Art Deco. You want to put a border all the way around your picture if it's a poster before you even start to do your letters. It's a really good idea to take your ruler and go all the way around it first and plan it out. Now, we talked about line, shape. There's something called the focus or the center of interest. In a poster, you want to know what someone's going to look at first. What's going to draw their eyes first? Every time you see an advertising sign, an artist figured out how to put it together to make you look at it, to make you notice it, to make you want to buy it, or just to change your opinion about something. So when you do something red, your eye goes there first. You want to think about where my eye travels from place to place, my center of interest. And then finally, I have a little guide here. If I was going to just put the word, let's say I'm going to put the word love in there. I want to have how tall the letters are going to be. And I want to make sure that, first of all, L-O-V-E. Can I fit it on before I start drawing? Anything, you don't want to have a lot of erasers on here. It's not going to hurt your paper if you're using poster board or a pretty good quality paper. It's okay to erase. But the best thing is if you put your letters on there and you pre-planned it so that you have plenty of room around your letters. So if I did the word love, I'd know exactly where the top of each letter was going to be, and I would make sure that I had room on both sides so that if I put my letters in there, it's going to look really good. It's going to be centered. And if I was trying to, let's say love, I wanted people to notice that first, I would do that in red. The Art Deco posters we saw, a poster communicates an idea, and you want it to be clear and lucid. You don't want to look at a poster and think, what in the world are they trying to say? You want to immediately know what they're going to be saying. I always suggest never try to paint your letters unless you really know what you're doing. Always use markers. You can paint your picture, that's fine, but it's very difficult unless you have a special brush or you have special markers to do letters. If you try to paint them, I know I've seen a lot of kids just get so discouraged because they've tried to paint their letters. They want to paint their whole poster, and it's so difficult. Better to just do your letters in marker first and then come back. Do it in marker, do it in pencil, plan it out, get your letters on there, and then think about how you're going to do for the rest of your poster. We're going to write the word urban here, and as you can see, the letters I'm doing are very, very simple. The letter here, the word birds, is more ornate, and I'm going to come back with a really fine line marker, and I'm going to add some details to this, and you can see how colorful it is as opposed to this one that's just going to be not quite as colorful and more, you know, not fancy, just bold simplicity in its line. And as I'm making this word, I've been suggested to do the word urban. So if I do the word urban, I'm going to do it very lightly, just like this, in pencil first, because before I even think about putting it in any other medium, I want to make sure that I have enough room. Because I don't know, I've seen so many people that they've gotten so discouraged with their posters because they worked so hard and then they couldn't fit a letter on, and then you just knew that this is what happened because you looked at the picture and there was this little scrunched up letter at the very end. And you don't want to have that happen. You want to make a plan. It's always, always good to have a plan. And so there's our word urban. And because it was really nice if we had some of the little shadow from the bright colors off on this one, that was a good thing. But here, we really don't want that. We want very clean edges, want clean colors. So what we want to do is when we color this, we want to make sure our marker's ready. And I think I'm going to put a line of yellow. And it's not going to be shaded. I don't want it to be shaded. And ideally, I've already tried this on another piece of paper just to see how I liked it before I began. Because again, when you do a poster and you come up with a graphic idea, and it's something, if your dad has a company, you might want to make a poster for him, or, you know, there's different businesses you could make posters for. Posters are always a good idea. But you want to really make sure you've got your plan first, and that then you do your poster. But I've decided I'm going to do the very back buildings yellow. I don't have a lot of color here to use, but I think I'm just going to make it very simple. Just do the buildings real clean, the edges. Now, if you have a lot of colored markers, you can use browns and grays, and I really think markers are awfully good for posters because you have very clean edges and you can be neat. Neatness is very important. If you get really tired and you scribble even one thing, it can throw off the professional and the really nice look of your whole poster because you don't want to distract from what you're trying to say. You want to know what you're trying to say, and you want to really be able to say it. Now, as you noticed, it takes a long time to color these if you're really being neat. And if I would do these light colors, like I would think like urban colors are bright, or trying to think of something that would go along. One time I had this little idea for a lesson, and I had the kids think of a poster for what was it? Some kind of a light bulb or light switches for Paul Revere, and Paul Revere's light company. It was just a made up thing, and they came up with the neatest ideas. So with lots of light colors. So if I wanted to make a city lighter, I can use warm color palette. Use my oranges, my yellows, and my reds. And if I want it to look cooler, I can use my greens and my blues and my violets. And if I combine them all, it's really going to be bright. If I make all the colors together. Which sometimes it says something about the city. If you love bright colors usually make us happy and cheerful. So it's really, sometimes it's a good thing. But this right here is more in the Art Deco style of a poster. So you can see how I've colored the buildings so far. Very clean edges. Now I might want to come back and do another row of yellow. And then of course I'd have to think of the letters, what color I'm going to do the letters. And if you love to color, sometimes I think it's so relaxing to just, once you get something drawn on, like when you do your Art Deco or your Art Nouveau poster, there's a lot to color, but sometimes it's so fun to do that. And if you get markers that are blending a little bit, like these, just wonderful. You can get the most beautiful effects. I have my warm colored skyscrapers. And then I could do a whole nother row of orange. And this would definitely be your Art Deco style. See the trees? Very, very simple. Nothing elaborate. The lettering, very simple, very symbolic. Nothing elaborate. Very different from your Art Nouveau. When you look at a Tiffany lamp or you look at a piece of Art Nouveau, we'll talk about that a little bit. I found a sculpture. I went to a really neat little antique store and found an Art Deco duck that was done in such simplicity. Very, very simple and very Art Deco. And then, of course, if you found one that was way over the top, it would look quite different. I'd want to go back over it. Again, if I don't color neatly, then people are going to be looking at the areas that I didn't color neatly instead of my whole picture as a whole. When you use a graphic program like Adobe Illustrator or GIMP, and you can sort of do a drawing and get your colors, computer colors, that's a real easy way to do it. But when you have to color it yourself. Now, one thing I want to tell you about letters, if you look at most posters, letters are not usually the same color. They can I love it when they change darker to lighter, just one letter. Not only can your letter change darker to lighter, but it can look very shaded. It can be different values or shades. That's what I really like the best, when even the letters are artistic and they're not just solid. You wouldn't find that in Art Deco, but you certainly could find that in Art Nouveau, in the Art Nouveau style. So here we have an example. And you can see the simplicity in the road. But here we have our urban Art Deco poster and our Art Nouveau poster. We're going to do a horse head now, and this is a very easy thing to do. When you sculpt something, it's art that you go all the way around, so you really need to be watching and looking that you're looking at how it looks from all different angles. And when you start a horse head, what you want to do, you have to make a base. This is a little, you've got to make sure that it's going to sit down. A sculptor is an engineer in a way, because you don't want to create something that's going to roll off the table. You want to create something that's sturdy. If you did a whole horse, you'd have to have an armature if it was a standing up horse, just because of the weight. But one of the neat things that you can do with this particular clay is you can put toothpicks in it that give it strength, and you can bake it and it's not going to break. When you do a terracotta clay, of course it shrinks, and so if you try to put anything in it to give it strength, you're going to have it break, and you won't be able to have it fired. It'll crack. But not so with the Sculpey. You can add things to it to make it adhere. And I'll show you a bird also that's an Art Deco style bird, and you could also do that, but we're going to do the horse first and look at the two styles. Now, if I take and I sit it down really flat, and then what I want to do is I just want to take and I want to pull out the shape of a horse head. Okay? What I do is I pull out the nose, and you could be looking at a horse while you're doing that, or maybe if you love horses and you know horses, you really don't have to, because you know what their neck looks like, what their head looks like. You want to just shape it until you're very satisfied with the way that it looks. And then you want to make sure that it looks the same from all angles. You want to go all the way around it. You want to make sure that you have the correct shape that you want. Now, a horse head, of course, I'm getting the nose. If you make a horse head too short at the neck, you're going to look like you have a Great Dane dog. You might as well make big ears, and you're going to have a Great Dane. You have to make the nose long enough with a horse head. Now, one thing that helps you a lot when you do an eye, now I'm not going to do an eye in the Art Deco piece, but a sculptor does an eye in a certain way. And you put the clay on the ball on the clay, and then you take and you put like a little snake-like thing on the top and on the bottom, and then you pinch it and you sculpt it and you put it together, because you want it to be the eye. You want it to look like an eye. My husband used to make life-size dinosaurs for museums, and so he would actually order the eyes from a taxidermist. And so as you can see, right there, you have what looks like an eye. Now, if I decide that I need on my horse head, I need maybe a jowl. Maybe I need a cheek. I need to put a cheek on there because a horse does have a cheek, and I want to add a little bit to that. After this bakes and dries, you can even sand it. You can turn the head in a particular way if you want to. You can have the horse with his head up. You can just do all kinds of different things with it because it's your sculpture. And especially if you go with an Art Deco or an Art Nouveau style, you want to I'm going to do an Art Deco horse first. And my Art Deco horse, of course, isn't going to be as detailed. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil, and you could use a sculpting tool, and I'm going to put nostrils there where I want the nostrils to be. And it's going to help a little bit because even though it's not perfect, I have to have my nostrils, and then I have to make my lip of my horse. Okay, so I make my nostrils, and then I'm going to make the lip, mouth. Now the fun thing is, if you really get into this a lot and you love to sculpt, you might even put a hat on your horse, or you could do a lot of different things. I'm putting the lip on the horse because horses have that lip there. Now, one of the most important things, when you actually do the real terracotta clay, you have to learn how to score things, and then you use a little bit of slip sometimes, which is like a mud. You sort of get it together. But the thing you want to remember is when you add things on to your Sculpey, you have to attach them well. If you don't attach them well, they're going to be breaking off very, very easily, and you don't want it to break off. You make an ear in the size of a little triangle. So I'm going to make two little triangles. I'm going to put them on the horse, like this. Now what I have to do is I need to look all the way around my horse, because I want to make sure that he's going to look good from every single angle, because sculpture is art you walk around. I'm just going to pinch it up like this. My Art Nouveau horse is going to be much different from this. This is my Art Deco horse. I'm going to go like this. And I have the mane on him. And with Sculpey, you can even cut it if you want to with a pair of scissors or a sculpting tool. You can make it, you can put slits in it if you want to. But our Art Deco horse is going to look a little bit more stylized, a little bit more, not quite so real, more symbolic. I don't have to worry about eyes on my Art Deco horse. But as you can see, if I look all the way around it, I have a horse that can actually sit on my table, and it's more in a metallic Art Deco style. Now I can, again, when it gets dry, I can sand it if I want to, but I can use tools now and I can get it a little bit smooth. But I want to just go all the way around it. My Art Nouveau style horse, I would do pretty much the same thing. I would make my base like that first, and then I would take the horse head, I'd get my shape. My shape would be like this. And I'd keep working with it till I was very, very, very happy with it. Now for an Art Nouveau horse, I want to do something really over the top. Now, you might have to work with this a couple minutes before you're so happy with how the horse looks, that you make sure that his nose is like you want it, and his neck is as good as you want it before you start putting details on him. Just make sure that that shape is exactly like you want. Now, I think with my Art Nouveau horse, I might have him like turned a little bit. Just make it a little interesting. I want it to be real flowing. So I'm going to make the same nose. Put the nose in there and the mouth. And I did one earlier because I wanted you to see how I did the mane on the Art Nouveau horse. The Art Nouveau style would be very, very elaborate. So as I'm doing this, I want to get my horse head, and then I want to make my mane really spectacular. I want it to be really very, very ornate. So I'm going to put the lips on my horse. And again, you want to work with it till you're happy with the shape. You can always sand it when it dries, but basically you want to get a shape that you're happy with all the way around. And you want to get a shape that's going to work and it's not going to fall over, that you can have standing someplace and you can keep it for years. My cousin did with me one of these with me about 10 years ago, and when the ear came off, she nearly died. She was, she kept it and she was so proud of it for a long time. But of course, everything. And then, you know, her ears weren't on very well. So that's another thing. You want to make sure that the ears are on well. And when you do a serious horse, this is nice because if you put this through here like a pin or a toothpick, you can see where the eyes are on the same side. So you don't have one eye up on top, one eye on the bottom on your, when you're doing the actual eyes, when you don't have the simplicity piece that you want to just have so simple. You might, on this piece, you know, you might want to suggest where the eye would be, but you don't actually have to put the eye in there because you have such a simple style. Okay, now we're going to try to really work on a very, very interesting mane for this guy. So I'm going to get my Sculpey Soft, and I'm going to try to create a really over-the-top mane that would look more Art Nouveau. Now, you could take a long time and you could make little snake-like things and pieces of the grass and all kinds of interesting things that you're going to put on the horse. But as I said, I want it to look really over the top because it is Art Nouveau. And I want him to have a very fancy mane. And again, when you do sculpting, you have to go all the way around it all the time. And I want to create real eyes in this one too. So I just want it to be very, very fancy. I'm going to take and put some very fancy pieces on his head, between his eyes, just adding more detail. And the whole thing, I want to create lines in it so that it looks like the lady that we saw in the lesson. Very, very, very over the top. The way I can do the eyes, I'm going to try to make the eyes look a little more real. I'm going to use this tool and I'm going to get some really neat shapes in here. and a lot of movement. Because I want you to still see that it's a horse, but to see that it's a certain style of horse, which is really over the top and elaborate, which would be Art Nouveau. Now, in order for me to do the eye, I'm going to make a place for the eye, like that. And I'm going to make the same place for the eye on the other side. I'm going to take a very small little ball, and I'm going to put it in the hole that I made for the eye, and I'm going to press down. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Make that little hole and press down. So you have your beautiful horse's eye. I look at it all the way around, and I think I've created something that is really pretty over the top, pretty Art Nouveau. And I can go back to the simplicity of my Art Deco piece, and then I can do my finishing touches. We want to remember that sculpture is art that you can go all the way around. So you just might want to take some time and work on finishing and adding details, and still know that when you are all finished and you bake this about 175 degrees, you can bake your Sculpey in the oven, and you can get it very hard like plastic, and then you can even paint this if you want to. And make it I think for the Art Deco piece, a gold horse would look good, or silver or pewter. Any of those metallic colors would look really good. For the Art Nouveau horse, I think a really dramatic horse like would look like it's in a storm or something would look really, really good. Again, when you really get into this horse head making, you can add all kinds of like halters and just different things to it that make it look very, very interesting.